Let's talk about queer platonic relationships. So, queer platonic relationships are a particular kind of relationship that doesn't have a sexual or romantic component to it, but instead is based on platonic friendship. It's a relationship that is important in a person's life. It is a relationship in which people have entwined their lives together. Importantly, the term queer in the title, queer platonic relationships, does not have anything to do with a person's sexual orientation. A person can be straight, gay, bi, pan, queer, asexual, whatever sexual orientation they have, and be in a queer platonic relationship. The word queer in this instance refers to the fact that it is subverting social norms. Specifically, it is subverting the norms of amatonormativity. All right, let's think about this in a little bit more detail here. We live in a world that is just saturated with all of these norms of amatonormativity. We live in a world where there is a great deal of pressure and expectation that everyone will enter into, not just exclusive sexual or romantic relationship, but that sexual and romantic relationship will be the most important one in their lives. And we see that assumption showing up in all kinds of different ways, where, let's see, if a person's been in a relationship for a while and they go on vacation with a bunch of friends, but not their partner. Sometimes folks will ask, oh, are things going okay in that relationship? Or if somebody has, let's see here, important hobbies that they spend a lot of time on that their sexual or romantic partner is not part of. Again, people tend to say like, oh, how is that? Is that okay? Right? There tends to be this assumption that we need to layer all of the components of our relationships and our lives onto that one exclusive sexual and romantic relationship, such that one significant other is, first of all, somebody that you are romantically attracted to, sexually attracted to, having sexual interactions with, but also that they're your best friend. They are your housemate, right? So you're doing like the mundane daily stuff together. If you have kids, this is the person you are raising those children with. If you own property, you own that property together, and that you're going to be spending a great deal of time together, right? Those are all different dimensions of a life, right? And it's really noteworthy that there's this strong social assumption that all of those different layers and dimensions have to take place with just one person, right? So those are the assumptions of amatonormativity. Queer platonic relationships are relationships in which a person resisting those norms of amatonormativity and instead structuring, maybe a extraordinarily important friendship as one of the most central and important relationships in their life, right? So they might be having sexual or romantic relationships with somebody else, but the person that they live with or the person they're going to always prioritize in terms of making time for them is this best friend. Now, crucially, I do want to differentiate queer platonic relationships from our sort of more common notions of, friendship, even like best friends, right? Queer platonic relationships are distinct from other kinds of important friendship because it involves this component of entwining your lives together. Now, this distinction, I think, is less apparent when you are a teenager, and especially when you're in your, in college and in your 20s, maybe even up to like early 30s, this shows up a little bit less because it's really normal to live with your best friend, have an apartment together or something like that. That's deeply normal when you are younger. But as you get older, there's this assumption that, after a while, you'll grow up, enter into a sexual or romantic relationship and live with that person. That when you go to the movies, you're going to go to the movies with that person. That it would be weird to, just for no real reason, just because you feel like it, decide to spend the holidays with your friends rather than with a romantic partner, right? So there are all of these assumptions, especially as you get older, that more and more and more of your life is going to be entwined with a romantic partner. So once again, we see this distinction between queer platonic relationships and other forms of friendship a little bit more as people sort of, get into like their mid 30s and especially going forward through their 40s and 50s. So queer platonic relationship involves that kind of entwinement. It might involve living together. It might involve raising kids together, making major life plans together, or financial decisions together, right? So these sorts of, again, important dimensions of one's life. It's not just that this is an important friendship, it has to do with the mechanics of decision making in daily life. So queer platonic relationships, they subvert or transgress against these norms of amatonormativity. Importantly, queer platonic relationships receive very little recognition in our current social world. So while marriage receives governmental support and tax benefits, as well as all kinds of other benefits, queer platonic relationships do not. And so it might well be the case that somebody who has lived with their partner in a queer platonic relationship, for 20 years, they might not be able to visit them in the hospital during a major health crisis. They might not be able to make those really important medical decisions for them that they're best positioned to be able to make those decisions. They might not be able to inherit any of their property, right? And we're talking about like mementos and important like physical like memories, or reminders of memories, right? If we were to create institutional or governmental support for queer platonic relationships, this could serve as a way to recognize the value of a multiplicity of kinds of relationships in a person's life. That sometimes an important relationship might be a romantic one, but it might not be for everyone. Or a romantic relationship might not be the only important relationship in a person's life. Right now, we tend to treat, things like friendships as lovely, but a step down from something like marriage. Somebody's been living with their very close friend for 20 years, we tend to treat it dismissively. We tend not to, grant bereavement time off for someone who has lost that kind of partner at the end of their life. We tend not to, again, create the same sort of recognition or place the same sort of value on these relationships, which matters, particularly when those relationships are so valuable in people's lives. When we refuse to recognize them, this is a form of erasure, and it's a form of limitation or dismissal. It's worth thinking about which sorts of relationships we not only recognize, but support and validate in our social world.